11th at 7:02 p.m. All council members are present with the exception of Councilmember Hendricks. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on our agenda for tonight is public comment. Public comment is an opportunity for town residents and other interested individuals to speak about items that are not on the agenda. This comment period is limited to the first 30 minutes of the meeting, and if there's additional public comment, we'll follow that up at the end of the meeting. You must sign up ahead of time in order to comment, and that sign up begins 30 minutes prior to the start of the meeting. We have public comment three ways. You can either make a public comment in the room, you can email the town clerk's office up till 5 o'clock on the day of the meeting, or we do have Zoom capability, which the town clerk will enable for us for this meeting. So if you are here to talk about the Circle K gas station, we have that as an agenda item, so you don't have to use the public comment portion. We'll hear your public testimony during the public hearing at that time. So is there anybody else in the room who might not have signed up that wanted to make a public comment on something not on the agenda? Seeing none, do we have anybody on Zoom?
There is no one.
Okay, then we will move on to item number 3, reports, items, and comments from the mayor and council. I'm going to start to my right with the new guy just back in town. Councilman Rivera, welcome back.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Mr. Mayor. It's good to be home. I had a wonderful vacation. Sorry I missed town for a little bit, but as always, you got to miss something in order to truly understand how much you love it. So, like I said, it's good to be home, and I'm ready to get back to work.
Councilmember Pogue.
Yeah, I want to commend staff for their efforts on July 4th. I thought the crowd was huge. I don't know how it compares to prior events, but there were a lot of things going on for community residents, and we had a lot of guests, I'm sure, to do. And so whether or not you have an opinion on the drone show, I think the issue is that we had a great community celebration. I want to thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Councilman Dyak.
Thank you very much. July 6th, I had a couple of transportation-related meetings. I had the Denver Regional Council of Government, or Dr. Cog, work session. We talked about the greenhouse gas analysis. There is a state law in place which we need to discuss and consider regarding transportation funding. So that's a continuing dialogue. I also had a Douglas County Transportation Forum Steering Committee. I chair that committee. It's a bunch of elected officials from Douglas County as well as staff members from Douglas County. The items of note, we are talking about allocating a little over $20 million of transportation funding throughout the county. The only item of note for Parker is we have a project submitted for consideration, a Parker Road multi-use path from Pine to Stroh that will be scored and considered here in the forthcoming months. So that is all.
Excellent. Councilmember Barrington.
Good evening. So it was a quiet couple of weeks except for the Stars and Stripes celebration that I attended, and I also think the staff did an amazing job organizing this, and that is all I have. Thank you.
Great. Councilmember Hefta.
Yes, I would echo fellow council members' comments on an amazing show and hard work. It takes a lot to put on something like this, the Stars and Stripes. So we had a lot of feedback on fireworks versus the drone show. And these are very difficult decisions that we wrestled with prior to trying out the drone show this year. So, and this has a lot to do with the fire ordinances and fire bans and the risk of fire in our community. So we have to balance that consideration when we make this decision, and the decision has to be made early in February and March. It's not a decision that the town makes at the last minute. So we struggle with these issues and how to provide entertainment for the town. And so we had a lot of positive comments on the drone show, but we had some negative too, and we understand that. So again, I just want to make that comment that we have to make these decisions many months in advance, not at the last minute, and it does cost a significant amount of money versus a drone show or a fireworks. The other thing I want to say is I was at a town like Council Member Rivero visiting family in North Dakota. And again, now when I visit towns, I look around for zoning ordinances and zoning issues and how everything is well planned. And Grand Forks is a lovely town, but there's no place like home in Parker, Colorado. And we have some outstanding bike trails here. And I just want to say that my health is coming back, and now I'm getting into biking. So you're going to see me out there on the bike trails at Salisbury Park. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. And just to echo my thanks to the staff for a great 4th of July Stars and Stripes celebration. For all of you out there, though, that prayed for rain, you might have put it off for a day or two, and it would have been nice. But it was good. People were in great spirits out there. So, again, our staff went to a lot of work. So, awesome. Moving on to our next agenda item is the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion for consent agenda items unless council votes to remove an item for an individual discussion. Ordinances on the consent agenda are for introduction only and will not be removed for discussion. So, council, you have 2 items on the consent agenda, 4A and 4B.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve consent agenda items 4A and 4B, please.
I'll second that.
Motion is made by Councilman Rivero, seconded by Councilmember Pogue. Rivero?
Aye.
Pogue?
Aye.
Dyak?
Yes.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 5-0. Next up is item number 5, and it's our public hearings. The first public hearing will be on the Auburn Hills Center L4 Circle K gas station use by special review. So let me go through how we do a public hearing on this, just for your edification. I'll open up the public hearing. We'll have a presentation from our staff. The council will then ask questions of the staff. We'll have a presentation from the applicant. The council will then ask for questions and conversation with the applicant. We will then open it up for the public comment. When public comment happens, you'll have 3 minutes to have a public comment. The council won't address your comments, but we are taking notes. We're hearing what you're saying, and that will be for 3 minutes, and we will be here till everybody gets through. Then we'll bring it back and give the applicant a chance to just address any of the overall concerns that may have been addressed. Then we will bring it back to the council. We'll close the public hearing. We'll deliberate up here. We'll vote, and it'll be solved tonight. So with that, Julia Duncan, you're going to kick us off with the staff presentation as we open up the public hearing at 7:10 p.m. Oh, and while they're getting the presentation ready, if you are here for the open space resolution, which is item B on our agenda, that will be moved to next week as we work through this, but I don't want you hanging around if you're going to make public comment on the open space resolution.
And just to clarify, Mayor, that is the Open Space Trails and Greenways Master Plan Resolution, because we also have a resolution regarding the Open Space Advisory Commission.
Okay, thank you.
But yes, it is item agenda 5B.
Here comes IT to save the day. All right. We're also going to look for 18-year-olds in the room that could help us with the technology here. So that's who I have to call on. So
Thank you for your patience, council members. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thank you for having me here this evening. Julia Duncan with the Planning Department. Before you is a request for a use by special review for a convenience store and gas station. The applicant, Circle K, is proposing a use by special review for a 5,200 square foot convenience store and gas station. The site is located southwest of the intersection of Main Street and Jordan Road. What you're seeing here in this depiction is the recently approved minor development plat overlaid on an aerial shot of the location with the project site highlighted in yellow. The subject property was annexed into the town of June 1987 and is currently undeveloped with a planned development zoning. The site area, the area you saw highlighted in yellow only, is approximately 1.597 acres. On May 16th of 2022, Town Council approved Auburn Hills Center minor development plat, creating 5 new buildable lots, as well as access aisles, sidewalks, and tree lawns. If this project is approved, there will be 4 additional buildable lots in addition to the lot we're looking at this evening. The subject property is located within a neighborhood center area as designated by the Parker 2035 master plan. Neighborhood centers should be planned to serve the basic needs of the surrounding residents. Typical uses within neighborhood centers include convenient retail, personal, and personal business services. The Bradbury Ranch Plan Development Third Amendment, which is the existing and current name of the plan development, designates the property as neighborhood commercial, which intends to provide a broad range of retail goods and services, business and professional services which support residential uses, and complementary public community services and facilities. The zoning for the property as planned development has been in place since the property was annexed in 1987. No zone changes have been requested or associated with this application, and the original neighborhood commercial zoning for the property has been consistent and has allowed for the gas station use by special review since the Bradbury Ranch PD was adopted. There have been 3 amendments to the PD, none of which affected or changed the designation of this particular property. And I'm happy to go into those 3 amendments later if you'd like. Since the 3 amendments, 2 subsequent rezoning applications for the parcel south of the site have been made to rezone from neighborhood commercial to residential. Those were in 2008 and 2017. Both of those applications were denied by council. The Bradbury Ranch PD Third Amendment allows gas stations as a use by special review, but requires an enhanced level of review evaluation under the 9 special review criteria by the Town Council at a public hearing. The requested use by special review is consistent with the specific goals, strategies of the master plan by balancing Parker's business and retail community to include a variety and diversity of business types and scales. Circle K proposes a new 5,200 square foot convenience store with a single stack fuel canopy with 7 fuel pumps. There are 22 standard parking stalls with 1 ADA parking stall. The proposed Circle K is requesting operation of 24 hours per day. The building is required to meet the town development design standards and is proposed to have masonry, stone, and stucco features with varying roof lines and architectural pop-outs. Access will be on the west side of the property from internal drive aisles, which take access from Cedar Gulch Parkway and East Auburn Hills Drive. Site plan approval is required for the application. The western property line is approximately 300 feet to the west of the right-of-way of East Auburn Hills Drive and approximately 335 feet from the rear of the properties to the west. As the crow flies, the project is over 1,300 feet from the Prairie Crossing Elementary School. To the north, it is 430 feet from the residential subdivision across Main Street. Staff has reviewed the proposal and has determined that the project is consistent with the master plan and the use will be consistent with the surrounding area. It will not result in an overuse of the land, create traffic congestion, or be detrimental to the town. Additional mitigating conditions are recommended for approval and were included in the staff report. Staff has reviewed the proposal and has determined that the project satisfies the 9 criteria required in the Land Development Ordinance for a use by special review, and all referral agency comments have been addressed. Staff and the Planning Commission recommend that the Town Council approve the Auburn Hills Center L Lot 4 Circle K gas station use by special review, subject to the conditions contained in staff's report. This concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions you all may have. The applicant is also present this evening with a presentation and available to answer questions.
Great, thank you, Julia. We will start with council questions of staff. I'll start to my left with Councilman Dyak.
Thank you very much. Julia, I just kind of want to set the tone, if you will. Up here as a council member, on a use by special review, we have a couple of things that we're trying to answer, if you will. It's meant to be more of a objective exercise rather than a subjective exercise. For me, the two questions I have and I always have are, is it zoned correctly for this use? And has it met or exceeded the criteria that we have in place when the applicant submitted to the town of Parker? So with that, the zoning, you mentioned that the zoning originally for a use like this was blessed or approved in 1987. Is that correct?
That is correct, with the original annexation of the property into the town.
And in terms of the surrounding areas, the townhomes to the west and the single family to the west and to the south, when was that zone? Was that zone consistent with that, or am I surprising you with that question? I apologize.
The townhomes to the west were originally zoned neighborhood commercial. In a subsequent amendment, there was a 1994 amendment and a 2008 amendment. I believe the 2008 amendment turned that property into allowed for those townhomes to be what townhomes in the town are considered multifamily,
Okay.
and that's when that rezoning occurred. We maintained the original commercial designation on that corner at that time.
Okay. So in sum, this zoning for this area that's before us predates the zoning of the multifamily that's currently built. Is that correct?
That's correct. And to be clear, the property to the north across Main Street had been zoned for residential that entire time as well.
Okay. And again, from a zoning standpoint, you also mentioned, and I think I was sitting up here along with Councilmember Rivero when there was a rezoning application in 2017. I call that probably the best presentation I've ever seen. Kudos to Mr. Trevey, wherever he is. But we denied that. We had a large contingent of citizens come before us and say that they did their due diligence and their research, and they wanted the existing zoning to be upheld, if you will. And I think we went through a couple of examples, or at least from my recollection, Mayor Wade did. But what if? And they did not want the senior housing. They wanted the existing zoning, which is what's before us. That's a little bit of an editorial there. But with that, moving on, use by special review. The way I've always looked at use by special review is it is an approved use, but there's something in the application that requires a greater level of scrutiny. And it has to come before us, and the council needs to make a judgment on if, along with staff's input, if the applicant has successfully mitigated those issues. Would that be a fair representation of what the definition of use by special review is?
Yes, and the code calls out 9 specific criteria that must be met.
Okay. And with that, I have the 9 criteria right in front of me. Again, with a gas station, I believe all gas stations, for the most part, are used by special reviews. Is that correct?
In a majority of our planned developments, they are allowed in some of our straight zoning without additional levels of use by special review.
Okay. So from an objective standpoint, we have the zoning that has been in place since since it has been brought into the town or been platted, if you will, and it predates at least the multifamily to the west or the townhomes to the west, we can assume maybe the single-family residential it came in with, or is that just not a fair question to provide at this time?
With the original adoption of the Bradbury Ranch PD, the single-family residential to the north was a concurrent adoption. The plan and the guide showed that residential to the north and that commercial corner.
Okay. All right. So with that, we have a use by special review that has been in place. So to me, I've checked the box on that, and I move forward to the criteria that you have provided, the use by special review. And some of these, again, you indicated that staff believes that the applicant has met or exceeded these criteria requirements. To me, in hearing or reading the emails from concerned citizens, I will be focusing my efforts on trying to identify if this application will not cause significant air, water, or noise pollution. And I think there was a little bit of an adequately landscape buffered and screened too. That might be a site plan, but again, I think those are the two. Number 9 is will not otherwise be detrimental to health, safety, and
Tom,
welfare.
are you debating right
No.
now? Or do
No,
you have a question for staff?
No, well, I'm just trying to set the table.
Because you'll get time at the end, but I just want to make sure you
no.
are asking
Yeah,
questions.
I mean, I'm trying to articulate. I'm trying to set the stage for what we're about to do. I mean, to me, high level, this is an objective process that we have requirements in place. So, from a question standpoint, I just wanted to make sure that I am consistent with what we're about to go through. Am I misspeaking anything at this point in time?
Those are all criteria that are used to evaluate the project.
All right. So I think I've clarified what I need to do. Thank
Okay,
you.
perfect. Councilmember Barrington.
So in looking at the 9 criteria, it sounds like this has all, you've done a great job going through all of this, but I just have a question on one of the criterias will not result in undue traffic congestion or traffic hazards. Can you address what that's going to look like?
Sure, and we also have our engineer here, Alex from the town's engineering department, as well as the applicant has, I believe, brought a representative to speak to traffic issues. They are required to submit a traffic analysis with the site plan approval. In addition, when the minor development plat was adopted, there were some mitigation funding that was provided and required to the town of $87,000 for a future light at the intersection of East Cedar Gulch and Jordan at the time that any potential traffic impacts would trigger that installation.
The master developer did perform a traffic study with a minor development plat that did include this gas convenience store use. So it has been analyzed previously.
Okay. That's the only question I have right now. Thank you.
Great. Councilmember Hefta.
Thank you. So my question is on the second criteria, will be consistent with the town master plan. You said this was a zone commercial in 1987. That's a long time. I had just, I was in college, by the way. So that dates me a little. So since that time, have we had many offers on this particular piece of property to develop it?
With this individual corner property, I'm not sure if there haven't been any other applications other than the original annexation and zoning. There were the 3 subsequent amendments that didn't affect this particular parcel. It could not have been developed into 5 buildable lots until that minor development plat was just adopted this past May.
Okay, this past May. So it sat vacant because of all those requirements that were not fulfilled until this past May.
There were no unfulfilled requirements for that parcel other than the landowner wanting to subdivide it into smaller
Right.
buildable parcels. I don't know if he's had private negotiations offline with potential buyers or developers in the interim.
Okay. So we have a piece of private property that it needs to be developed and sold by this property owner. He's going to sell it to somebody. And he's chosen the Circle K. And so what are there some of the uses for that property, if you could just tell me, besides a gas station?
There's a number of explicit uses by right at that location, a barber shop, a dentist, a salon. So similar to the multi-tenant property you see to the immediate east of Jordan that has a range of uses. I think there's a small gym in there. There's a nursery going in, a daycare. So uses to that effect that are considered generally neighborhood uses.
Okay, and so this was the best offer from this landowner, and this landowner decided to go with this offer from Circle K, correct?
And I'm assuming it's the first application, so there are 4 more buildable lots that could attract additional neighborhood serving
Yeah, that was
uses.
I was getting to that point. So this is the first application, and there's 4 more buildable lots on this piece of property.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Councilmember Pogue.
Yes. Could you please discuss for us the action that was taken in June that was presented to council?
Sure, and that was actually in May.
May, okay.
The action was a minor development plat. This was one unplatted parcel at the time, and in order to make this a buildable lot, the landowner had to go through that platting process. What council adopted was the platting of 5 buildable lots, internal drive aisles, sidewalks that meet our code requirements, tree lawns. I believe there's a 5-foot sidewalk that goes around the entirety of the property, including the internal drive aisles, and an 8-foot tree lawn. That platting of that property is what was adopted by council in May.
Okay, and what was the zoning that went with that property at that time?
There was no zoning because it was a subdivision of land. The zoning for the property occurred in 1987.
And it was commercial at that point,
It was
right?
neighborhood commercial.
And it was a typical storefront type commercial, correct?
There are development standards within the PD that limit height and setbacks, and those have been consistent.
But the use back then was, like you said, the barber shop, the storefront type
Yes.
development.
Yeah, the uses have not changed either. The definition of neighborhood commercial from that original adoption has been the same since 1987.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Rivero.
Thank you. And just to piggyback on Councilwoman Pogue, a gas station is neighborhood commercial, correct? And yeah, it's not just a barber shop and not just, it's a wide range of things. And this PD identifies quite a wide range of things, doesn't it?
It has a pretty large list of neighborhood serving uses. A bicycle shop could fall in there. I was listing some typical uses people might like to see in their neighborhoods.
Thank you. I reserve my questions for the applicant.
Excellent. Council, any other questions for staff? No? All right. Julie, do you want to introduce the applicant?
Yes, we have Sophia here with the applicants team to present.
Great. Good evening. And if you will state your name and address for the record.
Yes. Sofia Hernandez with Land Development Consultants. Address is 950 South Cherry Street in Denver, zip code 80209.
Great. Thank you. Go ahead.
All right. Mayor and members of the council, we're bringing this case to you, before you, which has been recommended for approval by planning staff as well as unanimously approved by Planning Commission on June 23rd. This is due to the project meeting or exceeding the use by special review criteria, of which there are 9. Prior to the Planning Commission hearing, a courtesy neighborhood meeting was scheduled on June 6th. Go to the next slide. A copy of the notice is shown up on the screen. We didn't have any attendees at the meeting. However, we did have 2 residents that emailed for questions, of which we provided responses to, and 1 that called in with questions as well. The overall questions were pertaining to traffic.
Can we see whatever it is she's trying to present?
Yeah, we're,
And
let us, yeah, let us just get this showing here.
Can you make that bigger so we can
Yeah,
actually?
Working on it,
hang
buddy.
on, we're, yeah.
Thank you.
It's in protected, it's in protected view. Enable protected view.
Yeah, you got to enable.
Enable.
F5 will take you to full screen.
There we go. Okay, do you need to go back any, or is that slide a good place to start?
No, Mayor, no, we can go ahead and go
Okay,
forward.
so from this slide, so close. When we get that slide pulled back up, then can you go back and repeat what you said about the noticing and the
Yes.
neighborhood meetings, just when we get that slide back up?
Not a problem.
Okay, I don't know.
Okay, is that, Chris, is that what we got for?
Why can't they go to full screen?
I don't know.
They're not selecting the right icon.
It's a problem with the compatibility with Zoom.
Yeah,
So that's a conversation we'll have to have
Yep.
regarding Zoom.
yep. Okay.
Just for the audience,
Let's-
we can't read it either.
Yeah.
What,
Let's go ahead, since we have the noticing up, let's go back and talk about the neighborhood meetings and the noticing that you did, that this is an example of.
Okay, yes, Mayor. We scheduled a courtesy neighborhood meeting. It was not required as part of the application. However, it was extended as a courtesy to the surrounding residents. It was scheduled on June 6th. The notices were mailed out in mid-May. We had the hearing, the neighborhood meeting, and we did not have any attendees. We stayed on the Zoom call for about 15 minutes. At 15 minutes, we ended the meeting. Post the meeting, we did receive 2 emails from the residents with questions pertaining to traffic, as well as 1 call-in from another neighboring resident as well with a question pertaining to traffic. We've addressed those questions, provided them responses, and that's all that we received to date. Moving forward to the USBR review criteria, item number 1. The project will be in harmony and compatible with character of surrounding areas and neighborhoods. The Circle K store elevations have been enhanced with 360-degree architecture. The elevation you see currently is the front of the store. Typical Circle K prototype elevations are more flat and not as articulated. If we go to the next slide, you'll see the rear and the side elevations, of which there are faux windows that are being proposed and additional roof varying lines. On the next slide, it shows the illumination maps to show what the photometric plan will look like in a actual setting. This is a plan view where we have our fuel canopy, which is going north to south, and then the store just behind it to the east. On the next slide, we have a 3D rendering for a clearer picture of what the fuel canopy and the store would look like. All lighting per town standards are downward lit and meet the dark skies ordinance. And in addition to that, all lumens are required to be within the property boundary. The property boundary is shown in the dashed line, and we do not have any light spilling outside of that. Going to criteria item number 2, it will be consistent with the town master plan. The master plan identifies a project to be in the neighborhood center. Typical uses are convenient retail. The project proposes convenient retail services such as the new Circle K prototype floor plan provides expanded coffee options, healthy grab-and-go options, in addition to fuel, and we're also proposing 3 EV stations. Circle K is currently negotiating a contract with a EV supplier to get those installed in, nationwide. Criteria number 3, it will not result in an over-intrusive use of the land. C-stores are traditionally not a destination, typically like Targets or Walmarts or the Home Depots. Those type of uses are typically destination where people will go out of their way, out of their normal route to go to these businesses. C-stores are considered more collectors of pass-through traffic. People do not typically go out of their way to get to a C-store. It's more of a convenience. With this area, with the proposed church and preschool daycare, parents that are on the run, sometimes they need to run by and get a juice for their child or something. And it provides an easy, convenient access. And with that, the anticipated demographic are mostly families, single parents that are going through the area. Item number 4, it will not have a material adverse effect on community capital improvements program. Per the master development plan and the subdivision improvement agreement that require public improvements and landscaping to be completed at the developer's cost. The estimated construction costs and design costs to date are at about $3 million. The Circle K serves as a catalyst to get these improvements in place, sidewalks, and it alleviates the burden on potential future small businesses because now you have pad-ready sites where it facilitates that process for development. In addition to that, those costs, there's an $87,000 fee that will be paid to the town for the traffic light design and construction. Item number 5, it will not require a level of community facilities services greater than which is available. The use is not anticipated to generate a demand for additional municipal or facilities such as parks. Item number 6, it will not result in undue traffic congestion. The developer is constructing an internal road infrastructure for the subdivision, as well as a fee will be paid to the town for a traffic signal for design and construction at Cedar Gulch and Jordan. The use will not generate significant traffic volumes, which could result in undue traffic hazards. As far as the traffic study that's been prepared, it does account for the Circle K convenience store use, as well as the daycare and the preschool. The church has not been included as part of this study yet. However, we have had our traffic engineer review this, and the church and the daycare use will not be in unison because the church will be on Sunday peak hours versus daycare and preschool will be weekday peak hours. Item number 7, it will not cause significant air, water, or noise pollution. Today, USTs are more highly regulated by state and federal government, where there's a lot more protections in place to prevent any future leaks. One of those is the traditional steel tanks that people are familiar with that have caused various environmental concerns previously. Today, they are double-walled fiberglass tanks that They have double-walled for the reason that if the first tank fails, there's a fail-safe. Inclusively, there are spill buckets that are installed within the system so that when they're being filled, if there's any spillage, it does get collected in those buckets. Additionally, there are emergency stops that are inside and outside of the store. The fuel monitoring system is state-of-the-art, of which it's monitored within the store as well as remotely by the corporation. In addition to the delivery of the fuel tankers that come in, the tanks themselves have a full shut-off valve inside the tank that as soon as it's 95% full, it will not go beyond that to eliminate any possible spillage. In addition to that, the C-stores today are now installed with hose breakaways, which at some point, sometimes people do drive off with the hoses. And so with that, that eliminates that factor of having any spillage at that. Fuel dispensers do have sumps that will contain any possible leaks from the actual dispensers themselves when people are fueling. They do get collected in there, and they are monitored as well with electronic sensors. In addition to one of the concerns that has been noted has been what happens if the gas station closes. That is highly regulated by state and federal government as well. And when the fuel gas station is proposed to be closed, soil samples are taken to test water, groundwater and soil samples, and to make sure that they're within the allowable limits. If they are beyond the limits, then at that point, the entity is obligated to clean up anything that is there. Criteria number 9, it will be adequately landscaped, buffered, and screened. We have landscape that's being proposed along the entire boundary, in addition to a 3-foot screen wall that is proposed on the western and southern boundaries. Once this landscape matures, it will be dense, and therefore screening it even further in the future. Criteria number 9. It will not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of present or future inhabitants. The proposed Circle K has state-of-the-art security cameras and backup systems. They will have 19 interior cameras as well as 4 exterior. In addition to that, for the 4 Circle K Park locations that are located within the area, there have been only a total of 6 incidents across the 4 within the past 2 years, which is very minimal. Another option is that as far as security, it provides a safe haven. Today, domestic violence spans across all races, cultures, religions, ages, and socioeconomic groups. Today, now 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men experience some type of abuse. So this provides a safe haven because it would be open 24 hours. If anybody's going to school or anything, gives that immediate avenue for that one opportunity. In closing, again, this case has been supported by staff and unanimously approved by Planning Commission. We thank you for your time, and I'm available for any questions.
Great. Thank you for that presentation. I'm going to start to my right this time, and Councilman Rivero. Questions for the applicant?
Thank you very much. I appreciate the presentation. I'll be brutally honest. Your organization has the opportunity to respond to criteria questions, and the answers provided were incredibly brief. To the point that almost a rephrasement of the question is what I was reading, and I was actually very disappointed. Just a month ago, we had a dog service in here. It was also indoor use by special review for noise pollution, obviously, and I took the opportunity to answer each criteria with a page-long answer, and to see a national corporation give us such short answers, especially when there's very valued pollution questions in front of us, I was a little disappointed. But with that said, my questions were answered through an incredible presentation. I'd like to hear a little bit more about the regulations. Can you talk about the EPA and what that does, and talk to me a little bit about new tanks versus old tanks, because that's the biggest fear, right, is the plumes. We have old gas stations that we've had to have, the feds have come in and corrected. So talk to myself and my constituents about the plumes and how the feds mandate what it is you can do nowadays underneath the ground.
Oh, yes, Councilmember. And as far as the briefness of the presentation, it was just meant to kind of touch on everything and be able to answer your questions in detail.
No, please don't look. The presentation was wonderful. In the Planning Commission presentation, there is a questionnaire, and the answers back from either yourself or Circle K Corporate were very short and to the point. And I'm always looking for more. The less answers I get in that reading of that brief, the more questions I have for you.
Okay.
But again, your presentation was very valid and very, very informative. So I appreciate those. But just go a little bit more in depth, if you would, on the main concerns. Obviously, it's fuel pollution, it's groundwater. Talk to us about in our town how you're going to protect our town.
Yes, so first and foremost, it's the fiberglass tanks versus the steel tanks, which that's what steel tanks in the past have been a lot of the issue as far as plumes and leaks that were unaccounted for until the land is explored, somebody wants to redevelop it, and then you find out that there's contamination. Nowadays, that's mitigated a lot more by the type of equipment that's being utilized. So for instance, the tanks themselves are double-walled fiberglass. So they're less inclined to corrode and cause any leaks that are unknown. There's also a heavy use of electronic sensors within the tanks themselves, with a lot of fail-safes within that. That if there is any potential leak, it's a lot easier for them to detect it before it's actually a problem.
Do you have differential metering? So can you detect how much goes in, goes out?
Yes, sir. In addition to that, they do have a state required inspections every 30 days where they go actually check the monitoring wells and fuel vents and everything to make sure everything is functioning per code.
Okay. Thank you for that answer.
Councilmember Pogue.
Yes, thank you. I do have a couple questions for you. One, you addressed that you're addressing traffic impact to the residents by a traffic light. Did you do any traffic studies to think about the number of cars turning into the subdivision?
Yes, Councilmember, we did. There was an overall master traffic study that was done for the overall subdivision, accounting for the future uses of the individual pads. And the overall traffic study did include the convenience store use.
That study was not presented to council. So the next question then is, you addressed light pollution and fuel pollution, but what about the other issues, such as noise and air with the cars idling and so forth like that? How are you addressing that? And have you done a study to support your position?
We have not performed a study. If that is something that council would like for us to do, we are more than able to. It was not a requirement. But as far as screening the noise and light pollution and so forth, that is the purpose of the landscaping as well as the 3-foot screen wall that's being proposed. And in addition, when the future development goes in to the west, that will also serve as additional barrier.
I beg to differ with your opinion on whether or not it was required, because it states here that you will not cause significant air, water, or noise pollution, but that was not adequately addressed. I have no study here to prove that it's just going to happen. Thank
Okay.
you.
Not a problem.
Thank you. Councilman Dyak.
Thank you very much. My question is more along the lines that correlates to noise pollution. What is the frequency and time frames of the deliveries of, say, the fuel? How many times do they get fuel trucks in, and what time of day is that?
Typically, it is once a week. As far as the delivery time frame, I will need to get back to you on that because it depends on the geographic location.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Barrington.
So all Circle Ks are corporately owned, they're not franchised?
There are franchise locations, however, this one is corporately owned.
Okay. So that was the question about if you did close for some reason and there was a cleanup, I know a franchisee might not have the funds to clean something up if it needed to happen. I know you showed a couple of renderings. Now, will the front of the store where does that face? Does that face Jordan?
No, the front of the store faces west, and that is to satisfy town requirements. So the fuel canopy needs to be shielded from the main arterials. And so that's why the fuel canopy is placed in front of the
So
store.
it's a safety.
Correct. And also for it's for the town and just to screen the fuel canopies because they're a Blightly site from the main arterial, so from Jordan or Main Street. So we have a reverse layout. The back of the store faces Jordan, and then the front of the store goes towards Auburn Hills.
Okay. Actually, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Councilmember Hefta.
Yeah, a couple questions, thanks. There's another Circle K on Parker Road that's near Lehman Academy. Do you know what the setback between that Circle K is and Lehman Academy is?
I will need to get back to you, Councilmember. Not off the
Okay.
top of my head.
Okay. Do you know what the setback is going to be near the school for this, the gas station near the school?
I
How many
believe
feet?
it should be approximately over 500 feet is my understanding.
So 500 feet from the daycare or the daycare, which is a school, and the gas station. And do you know what the guideline is? And this would be for our staff as well. What the guideline is for this? Our staff can answer that. What's the guideline for that?
This proposed site, the property lines of the site are 1,500 linear feet as the crow flies from the Prairie Trail Elementary School. There is a new nursery daycare across Jordan Road. The distance of that is the right of way, and I don't have that measurement, but because it is not a public school and it's a daycare, it wasn't something that falls into the regulation of being within the proximity of a sensitive use.
Really? Just because it's not a public school?
Yes.
So it's about 500 feet, did you say?
And
From the preschool that's on Jordan?
From the gas station to the daycare?
It's probably approximately 150 feet. There is an existing gas station to the east on Main Street, and I would say in a similar proximity.
And when the planning commission, were they taking this into account when they were reviewing this?
They were aware of the location of the daycare. That was approved. That was a site plan approval, so it didn't go to planning commission or town council, but the presence of that daycare was brought up at public hearing.
Alex, do you have any thoughts on this as well?
Not really, no.
Okay. My other question was, you said that Circle K would provide a safe haven for victims of domestic violence because it would be open 24 hours. This is the first I've heard of that, safe haven in the sense that a gas station would be one, but I can see that. Along with that concept, do you provide any training to your employees on this safe haven matter for victims of domestic violence, on what procedures they might have to do if somebody came into the gas station?
That is something that's being regulated by Circle K as far as putting in that program.
So there is a program in place called Safe Haven then, or?
There's that's what it's called as far as the destination, or it could be that somebody could walk in and report an incident. And there's Safe House of Denver, which does that within the metro area. And it's a program that they participate in that.
Right, but does your gas station train its employees on how to handle, and such as calling the police and things like that, and how to handle a situation like that. If you're going to put that in your presentation, typically that's a national program that someone would be trained on. And unfortunately, in today's day and age, if a victim of domestic violence walked into a gas station, they may or may not get help from the employee behind the counter. And that's a sad truth. So you put that in your presentation, and that's why I asked that question, because if you're going to call it a safe haven, then a national corporation should have a training program in place if they're going to promote that concept as part of their presentation.
Yes, council member, they are, as well as security measures to be able to monitor the site if any incidents do occur.
So they have a program in place then?
Yes, ma'am, they do.
Okay, and it's called Safe Haven?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to have to look that one up.
No, not a
I'm
problem.
a lawyer, so I'm going to have to look that one up. Thank you.
Council, any other applicant questions? Josh?
So, thank you for the questions from Councilmember Hefta. So Safe Haven's national program, and a business can apply to become Safe Haven registered, right? And with that application would become, their criteria, just like we're doing tonight, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. And then going back to, and this is an interesting bleed over, because this falls under site plan, but recognized in the motion, if we did decide to pass, is your completion of said site plan, because site plan addresses the light pollution. You mentioned it, and I had forgotten to bring up the question. Can you talk about the wall? Can you talk about the wall that you're required to build here to help with noise and light pollution, please?
Yes, it is. Yes, council member, it is a 3-foot high wall that's decorative, that will match the architectural elements of the actual store itself. And the height of that is typically 3 feet in order to be able to shield any headlights. So it provides better screening of that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I do. I want to go back to the safe haven issue. You say that you have a national program?
They're part of it. And so what they do is that they will install posters within like the bathroom stalls and everything to allow for that information.
But that's not including the training of employees and how to deal with that environment, that situation.
No, yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone on this side question? Okay. Thank you very much. We will allow you to sit through the public testimony part, and then we'll bring you back up if there's any comments you want to add to that.
Okay.
Appreciate
Thank you for
it.
your time.
Appreciate your time. Thank you. All right, we've come to the public comment section, and I will go ahead and open up public comment at 8 o'clock during this public hearing. If you would like to come up and make a comment on this item, you want to continue?
I just wanted to note for the record that numerous written comments have been received by the town and by the town council, and those have been entered into the application on Trackit. And I would like it noted in the minutes that those are being entered into the record as well. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, perfect, and we have those all up here with us tonight as well to refer to. All right, so if you'd like to make a public comment, here's how it works. You come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. I'll give you 3 minutes. At the end of that 3 minutes, the next person will come up, and we will continue that process until everyone has had a chance to speak on the issue. So, no, ma'am, there's no sign-ups, so that's for public comment in the general, since it's not on the agenda. So I'll allow you to use your school skills to form a line if you need to.
I would be happy to start. My name is Catherine Bailey, and I reside at 16639 East Auburn Hills Drive.
Great.
So
Go ahead,
in the
ma'am.
townhomes. Mr. Diak, is that how you pronounce your last name? Diak, excuse me.
No.
I just wanted to bring up one thing to something that you had stated earlier, and that was that many of us homeowners did not want to put into something that you referred to as the senior housing project. That is not the way it was brought to our attention as homeowners. We were told it was low-income housing. That is a big difference in our eyes. And I want to, and I'm sorry, the representative from Circle K, I don't remember her name either. But anyway, at the Planning Commissioners meeting last week, I had brought up to her that none of my neighbors that I have spoken to have received what she put up there on the overhead. So I still don't know, even from her speaking, was that sent in a letter form to our homeowners? Because not one of the homeowners had received that, and that's why no one came to the meeting, because we didn't know about it. So I would like to bring that to your attention. And then the last thing, because I know there are many people that want to speak, in the letter that I sent to you, Mayor and Councilman, I specifically brought up the FBI study, the last one that was done in 2020, that talked about crime across our country. Convenience stores, all convenience stores, were the 4th highest places or locations of violent crime in our country. And gas stations were the 7th highest locations of crime. So that would put 2 of the highest in the top 10 from the FBI in our backyards. And lastly, the only thing that I asked from my heart specifically to have all of you do, and I don't know whether you have had a chance to do it or not, but if you went over there and you saw the front entrance that faces Auburn Hills, well, that is extremely a residential street. That's one of the ways we get in and out of our neighborhood, and to have the tankards and things like that. And Mr. Dieck, you had asked specifically about the timing. We were told at the last meeting that it could be, 24/7. There were no specifics on it. And I would like to know, on this new Safe Haven program, are they going to be carrying gun members, the people who work at Circle K? Because otherwise, no one is going to go there for a safe haven.
Great. Thank you for your comments, Ms. Bailey. Next up.
My name is Dr. Lance Losey. I live at 11568 Terrawood Court. I have a PhD in acoustics. My PhD dissertation was on sonic boom propagation through turbulence. I would like to state to the town council that a 3-foot wall acting as a barrier for noise pollution is a farce. It's scientifically proven to not work, to not provide any very minimal impact when it comes to sound pollution or the reduction thereof. I would like to point out that as a homeowner that lives in the picture where the satellite photo was shown, I did not receive the said letter that never showed up from Circle K. That's very disappointing. Foliage does not reduce sound. Have you ever sat at a intersection and you can hear the subwoofer of the car next to you? The reason why you can hear that subwoofer is because the frequency is so low that the sound literally goes right through the car. Cars idling and moving in and out of this area, given that the storefront will be facing, the gas pumps are to the west of the storefront, therefore sound will travel from the cars to the storefront, reflect off the storefront, and then go back into the townhomes. So unless you build a 10-foot high concrete wall, what you are doing is you are introducing a constant source of noise 24/7 for all the people who live immediately west of this property. I don't know that anyone at Circle K took that into consideration, but my PhD is from the graduate program in acoustics at Penn State. It is the top program in the nation. It is better than MIT in the field of acoustics. I would be happy to serve as a pro bono assistant to the town in all matters related to sound, as I am qualified to do so, and I'm happy to act in that capacity. One of the things that I was concerned about is that there was discussion about how the purpose of this facility is to meet the the basic needs and to provide balance in the community. One block to the east of this location, there's already a gas station, so I'm not sure that that qualifies as balance for the community. Let's see. And one thing that is confusing to me is if this is not going to impact traffic, why is it that it's necessary to put in a traffic light so that it doesn't impact traffic? How is installing a traffic light not going to impact traffic? In summary, I would like to just communicate that I am vehemently opposed to this decision. As part of what Mr. Diak said, I was one of those who fought the low-income housing, and I'm grateful to see a church being built in that piece of property today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Losi.
Doug Newton, 16623 East Auburn Hills Drive. I want to introduce myself to you because I'm the Mr. Corrections man. You know what that means. They don't. Two things. Julia said the neighborhood was started in 2008. That's wrong. It's 2003. That's when most of us moved in. And again, nobody got a letter for a planning meeting from this lady. I have yet to see a traffic counter on any street in the area, so I don't know what kind of a traffic study they could have done. And since I still have some time left, I would like 15 seconds of silence. That is what it sounds like on our patios during the day, most of the time. At 9 o'clock on 9 a.m. July 5th, I sat out there and I didn't hear a thing. And we're afraid that with that station, we're going to lose that silence forever. In summary, if you are so inclined to approve this, I would ask you to explore the possibility of switching the gas station 180 degrees. I know Julia said that it can't be done in the planning meeting, and I think with more planning and architectural redrawing, they could do it. The T-Square station, as mentioned, is 100 yards east. They're on a smaller footprint, and they handle all the traffic, tanker trucks, service trucks, without a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newton. You have 55 seconds. Any corrections to your comments, or?
Pardon me?
Any corrections to your comments? You have 55 seconds.
No, I think you've got enough.
All right, perfect. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, next up.
Yes, hi. William Murphy, 16719 East Auburn Hills Drive. Just wanted to emphasize and reiterate what our neighbor here just said, but to include that with this increased traffic, it will increase traffic through our neighborhoods, not just into the street, but through. These are quiet streets, and many of us walk our dogs and pets outside early in the morning. The cars are going to be coming right by us, and it will be a distinct interruption and to the peace and quietude of the neighborhood. There's no doubt about it. It's inevitable, and this is, I think, the major concern for me. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Ron Sterling, 16647 East Auburn Hills Drive.
Okay, Mr. Sterling.
Parker resident in that neighborhood for 20 years. The property itself where the church is being built and also the area that we're looking at for the convenience store and gas station has changed hands several times in that period of time. No one really seemed interested in that property at all, and now we have a deluge of things happening like all around Parker, actually, with any lots that are still available to build. The property is surrounded by 4 neighborhoods, all residential neighborhoods, I might add. Bradbury, the rest of the single-family folks back in Auburn Hills, the townhomes. The point with us mainly deals with no buffer of any sort. I mean, we're right on the property. I mean, it's kind of sad to see that, with no buffer at all when you're putting in heavy commercial like this. This property is really meant for storefront type stuff. The special session is to modify things to make it work for a gas station. You know, Circle K is multinational Canadian-owned outfit that has 6,400 stores in this country. You know, and they seem like they'd like to put one on every other block if they could. Anyway, I want to ask the council here, too. We've been sending information to be put on file in your planning department. Has anybody ever seen any of these referring to this project in particular? Have you had an opportunity to look at any of that? Just a yay or nay would be fine. If you haven't seen anything, that's fine. Let me give you an example of some of the stuff I've sent. Is it safe to live near a gas station? Scientists point to numerous health hazards. Big articles. All of this is on the internet. Anybody can look at it. 10 industries that diminish property values the most. Number 1 is hospitals. Number 2 is convenience stores with a gas station. And we haven't hit anything on the crime side yet. Well, somebody did, but separate issue. Impact of land use decisions on indoor environmental quality, gas stations, and local town zoning. Very good article about some of the things you folks have to wrestle with when you consider all this. Another, is it safe to live near a gas station? Ozone pollution. I can go on and on. The thing, too, is that new preschool, children 2 to 5 years old, that's a big facility. I've never seen a preschool that big. To be 150 feet from the gas station with 14 gas pumps and all the rest of it, it's got to be an environmental problem with pollution from automobiles and ozone. These are all factors to consider, but the fact that everything grew up around our neighborhood, and now this little corner, 15.
Mr. Shirley, if you could wrap up your 3 minutes. Right.
I'm pretty much done.
Great. Thank you very much for your comments. Next up.
Good evening. I'm Bob Blackwood. I live at 16655 East Auburn Hills Drive. Been a resident of Parker for 8 years. I've written to the Council and Planning Commission 2 or 3 times, so some of this may be redundant. I am concerned that the use of a convenience store and gas station in my neighborhood is not the best use of this land. Town's council, as I understand it, is to maintain a quality of life and well-being in the town, as well as being responsible for the safety of its citizens. Convenience stores and gas stations attract crime, especially those that are open 24 hours. That's no secret. That is why, in my previous correspondence with the Planning Commission and Town Council, I suggested small businesses to serve the residents of Auburn Hills, Clark Farms, and Bradbury Ranch. My suggestions include a barber shop, a beauty shop, a bank, an insurance sales office, veterinary clinic, doctor's office, dry cleaners, coffee shop, pizza shop, and an electric car charging station. I have a BMW plug-in on order. Parker has only 4 charging stations that I know of. These businesses are needed in our neighborhood, and Circle K is not. We don't have most of these businesses in our neighborhood. We don't have a real estate, a barber shop, a beauty shop. We don't have any of those anywhere near us. These businesses would keep normal hours and would not attract crime and extra traffic. When is the last time you heard of a dry cleaners being held up or robbed? Be a nice replacement for a gas station. Parker already has 9 24-hour gas stations between my home in Auburn Hills and Costco, about 3 miles. I just wonder what Parker's plan is. How many 24-hour gas stations do we need? I am disappointed that the Planning Commission approved this after our input and do not feel it is in harmony with our area. I hope the Town Council will extend this project and demonstrate some vision beyond just rubber stamping gas station approvals. Find some of the businesses we need. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Blackwood. Next up.
Hi, I'm Linda Kubley, 16641 East Auburn Hills Drive.
Go ahead.
Years ago, when my husband and I first moved to the area, my husband was in construction, and he built Amoco gas stations all across the Rocky Mountain area. That was probably in the late 80s. I don't know if you remember it, but Amoco stations were going up on every corner. You don't see any Amoco stations anymore. They all went down, and they're all gone. I'm just concerned that Circle K is going to do the same thing. Come in, build them out, tear them down. Build them out, tear them down. That's what Amoco did. And we had a lot of fuel issues with the tanks. That's my biggest concern. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Kubley.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Coburn at 16531 East Auburn Hills Drive.
Great. Go ahead, sir.
Great. And I'm going to take a little bit of a different tack. When we've been talking about a lot of the micro issues around the, around just the gas station and the convenience store itself. I'm kind of looking back as to when I moved in to Parker in 2004. One of the laments that I heard was that there were not enough businesses to keep local residents here throughout the day. Now, 20 years later, we seem to have filled Parker with an endless stream of fast food restaurants, thrift stores, box stores, and yes, gas stations. Yet we have a master plan and a planning commission to oversee that Parker achieves what the master plan promises. How we got here then, I suppose, is through the way in which the master plan and planning criteria were interpreted. According to this approving this project requires additional interpretation of the subjective planning criteria to, instead of keeping Parker a safe, attractive town for our residents, our children, and future generations, it's a town beholden to developers with their own agendas and to large C-store chains which are neither unique nor local and which don't contribute to an attractive or healthy community. When was the last time you ever bought an apple or something fresh at a convenience store? Approval of this project will continue to ensure that Parker remains where we sleep and fuel our cars before we head to Denver, Lone Tree, and Castle Rock to do our shopping and entertaining, and anywhere that's not Parker. Now, I'm not opposed to gas stations in and of themselves, but to approve them because they were first in line with the application is not really planning. That's just mailing it in. I could also talk about Circle K. At best mailed it in about getting feedback, to worst, outright lied to the planning committee about having gotten feedback from the community. And you can see here that it didn't really work very well. How the application shows deficiencies and omissions, how the police get called to gas stations and C-stores more than any other business, how the location will create health hazards to vulnerable individuals, and how significant remediation efforts are required to clean up a gas station should it close. It's time to listen to community voices here and interpret the master plan and guidelines in a way which will truly promote and uphold a vision of Parker that is dynamic and vibrant, with businesses that draw others from outside Parker and increase the tax base by capturing a larger percentage of our current residents' wallets rather than leaving town for better restaurants, higher-end retail, and Whole Foods. By approving this, we negate all other uses for this land and that could support this bigger vision of Parker. I urge the town council to take this opportunity and stand for the bigger vision by voting against the development.
Great.
Thank
you, Mr. Coburn. Appreciate it. Any other? Oh, Oh, Mr. Newton, you already got your time. Sorry. Anybody else? Oh, come on down.
Name's Pam Sterling, 16647 East Auburn Hills Drive.
Great.
20-year resident. As a resident of Parker, we have the right to defend our neighborhood and surrounding community from the negative impacts of a hypermarket, Circle K. Circle K is a multinational Canadian corporation with an aggressive expansion business plant model. For instance, Florida has over 900 stations. Arizona has over 600. As we grow, I assume that this plan will adapt to our growth plan. The applicant's interest should never be or never supersede those of the residents. We are the taxpayers and elect officials to represent the citizens of Parker. Town Council has voted down other projects that were much less detrimental to the community. Why is there such an urgency to put this proposal through the approval process without a proper investigation and analysis of the issues? There's so much going on here. It's so deep and so wide, and that we're hitting the top of it here, and that's not good enough. More questions need to be looked at and asked, and we have an organization, CED, that's willing to do that. They're ready to represent us now. What we need is 30 days to table this, and we have the right to do that. And you people here, you represent us. You are not here to represent the corporation. That's not what it's all about. This is our town, and we care a lot about it. In closing here, the residents never agreed that the criteria for the special review were met. Planning has really or never had any real background in this industry, which we've all now educated ourselves that out here. We've educated ourselves about the industry more than anybody. As a residents, we submitted studies and documents supporting our concerns to the mayor and town administration. We've gotten letters back saying that we're going to move forward because all the criteria was met. That's the frustrating part. So, in closing, I would tell you that I've contacted the EPA. I've discussed it with the media. I've gone to every avenue I can to try to get some kind of help with this. And at this point, all we're asking for is like a 30-day time period to table it so we can bring in somebody. If you don't feel we have the necessary answers for you or concerns don't resonate with you, let us bring in an organization that is time-tested and has good results with defending people like us. These people here deserve it. These people here worked hard all their lives. And this is for some of them, this is the last home they're going to own. Probably is for me as well. And we want to do whatever we can to save this community. And we're not saving just Auburn Hills, it's all the communities around us. This is opening the door to something really, really bad for Parker. And this constant thing with gas stations, did you know that Petaluma and Indianapolis just put a moratorium on building gas stations, and California is in preparation of doing legislation that will stop all building of them because we don't need any more.
Thank you, Ms. Sterling. Your time's up. Thank you. Appreciate your comments, though.
My name is Karen North, and I live at 16665 East Auburn Hills. Although I'm new to the area, I'm not aware of anyone that has received the Circle K invitation to discuss this project. I think the meeting is critical to educate us on the project and also for them to be a good neighbor. I request that the council tables tonight's vote until this meeting is held. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Good evening. I'm Roger Hannon. I live at 16671 East Auburn Hills Drive. Auburn Hills Drive, on the portion that the townhomes face and live on, is a private street. It's not maintained in any way, shape, or form by the city, although we have never asked for a rebate from the town for the taxes that we pay for those streets. I'm not going to go about that. I just wanted to bring it up that it is a private street, and adding, I walk my dog. There's only 24 homes out of the 72 that have a sidewalk in front of it. So all the residents, many of them with gray hair, walk their animals if they have one, or take walks in the street. So I just want to bring that up, that it's not something that's necessarily safe to increase our traffic load there. Also, I'm very disappointed in your Planning Commission not having proper information on when that subdivision was developed, indicating it was in 2008 when many of us moved into that subdivision in 2003. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Any other public comment? Go ahead. You coming on down?
Good evening. My name is Helga Manna, and I live at 56551 East Auburn Hills Drive.
Great, go ahead.
And I only have to make a comment. This is a very nice neighborhood. We don't need another gas station. We're going electric. Why are we putting in another gas station? I think you should put in maybe a little restaurant with outdoor sitting and a golf course, a mini golf course, something fun, not something stupid like a gas station. Who needs one? And all the bicycles are coming up electric too, so I vote against the gas station, okay? That's all.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Chris, do we have any, ma'am? Did you want to make a public comment? Okay, come on down.
Good, yes.
Hi. I'm Mary Daly. I live at 16657 East Auburn Hill Drive. And I just want to say I work from home. And so the noise, of course, would disturb that. But more importantly, I work at a hospital down in Aurora. And what I've observed in my few years here in Colorado is the homeless situation, as you know, is quite extreme. And as Denver did all their ordinance against them, it has now moved through the suburbs. And in Aurora, our homeless is quite significant. And where they like to congregate is in front of the 24-hour service stations, because that's where they don't get ticketed for trespassing. They're open 24/7. They're not going against anybody's timeline. So I really, truly believe this would be a real safety hazard, bringing it into our community, especially by our houses. We're breaking into a car to grab a little bit of change would be something that would be easy to do versus when they're in commercial areas where they don't get that opportunity. So it is a grave danger to our community to have this 24/7. Now, if you are going to approve it, could you at least make it not 24/7? The other gas station that we've all referred to is not a 24/7 gas station. They are respectful for the neighbors around them, and they have their lights down low. They don't have the trucks coming in and out. They don't have people hanging around there. It's an all right neighbor. So if you do have to approve this because they meet all the, tick the little boxes, make them not 24/7. Okay? Thank you.
Great, thank you. After public comment. All right, any other public comment? All right, seeing none, we're going to close the public hearing.
Wait a minute.
Mr. Mayor.
Do you have somebody online? I'm sorry.
If there is anyone on Zoom, please raise your hand that would like to make a public comment. There is one. It's Sean Sindelman.
All right.
Am I on?
Yeah, Mr. Sindelman, if you can state your name and address for the record. You probably can't see the timer, so I'll let you know when you're at 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sean Sindelman, 11300 Whipping Crane Drive, Parker 80134. I've been listening in this evening, and I've noticed that no one has talked about the traffic situation in regards to Prairie Crossing, which is the elementary school in Auburn Hills. Those who have students there would know that the traffic in the morning and in the afternoon during pickup and drop-off extends all the way from Granbury Ranch Drive back down Auburn Hills to basically Main Street. And with the installation of this gas station, the traffic is only going to get mitigated. It's actually not going to get mitigated. It's only going to get worse. And not to mention just the amount of incoming and outgoing traffic from that gas station onto that feeder road is just going to make that situation even worse. And I just wanted to bring that to the council's attention since nobody else who's given public comment tonight has brought that issue up. Thank you.
Great, thanks, sir. Chris, anyone else online?
No, there is not.
All right. With that, we are going to invite, as we always do, and close public comment, if there's no one else, at 8:34. And we're going to invite the applicant back, or ask the applicant if there's any other comments you want to make after the public hearing, after the public testimony. Seeing none? Okay. Ma'am, they're not obligated to do that, so appreciate that. And so I think with that, we've been going now for an hour and 35 minutes. We've asked for a recess on the council, so if we can take just a quick 10 minutes, and we'll be back at 8:45.
What happens if you don't get a break?
get our attention.
Yeah, exactly what Ms. Bailey said. Come on, folks. Were you a school teacher?
No, I was not, but I
She's
did
from
work.
New York.
I did work in the media industry for quite a while.
Excellent, excellent.
So I'm not afraid to speak up.
Excellent, I appreciate that. All right, so we have now, we've heard from our staff, we've heard from the applicant, we've heard public comment, we've gone ahead and closed the public hearing on this topic, so now we are going to bring it back to the council for debate and comment on the issue, and I'm going to start to my
Excuse
right
me,
with
Mr.
Councilman
Mayor.
Rivera.
Mr. Mayor, before you begin debate, you usually ask if there's any follow-up questions of staff or the applicant
Oh, okay,
from the council, any additional information they might need.
all right. Okay, so let's do that. Any other questions or concerns from the applicant or the staff? I'll still start to my right here. Councilman Rivera.
Thank you. I've got a few questions, starting with Ms. Bailey. Her brought up a question about the invite to the Zoom. It was mentioned in the presentation, and I'm just looking for clarity. That was not a criteria that was needed for a use by special review. That was a above and beyond on the part of Circle K, correct?
A public neighborhood meeting was not required by code. We do always encourage all applicants in the
Absolutely.
town to reach out to the community. We were provided a map of locations that they were mailed to. Those addresses were pulled from the Douglas County Registrar's Office, and it was a map that indicated abutting property owners, which also included the HOAs to the west and the north.
Okay, thank you. Moving down the line, can we address the one, obviously, Mr. Hannon, I believe, brought up the question or the statement that it's a private street? Can we talk about that real quick?
Yeah, I didn't quite follow that comment, but Auburn Hills Drive, where it connects from Main Street down to Bradbury Ranch Drive, that is a public roadway owned by the town.
Okay.
The internal roads to the townhomes, those are private roads.
Yes.
So that may have been what he was referring to.
That would make sense, because he did say houses that abut, and they wouldn't be abutting Auburn Hills Drive, they'd be abutting those private roads, is kind of what I got.
All
out
the
of that.
driveways are off the private roads.
I was
That's
looking
correct.
for this clarification for the group. Okay. And, sorry, I'm just going through here real quick. Those are my questions.
Okay. Councilmember Pogue?
Yeah, I don't really have any further questions of the applicant because I feel that submission of some of the information that the residents are talking about hasn't been done.
Councilman Dyak?
Yeah, I think just kind of capitalize on Councilmember Pogue. Traffic study. Have we done has there been a traffic study either at this level or the previous level to the uses, if you will, of this area?
Yes, Councilman. With the minor development plat application that went through last year, a full traffic study was done for this parcel that assumed this use. So counts were taken in May of '21, and the latest, the final version of the study was dated October 13th, '21.
Okay. And then in terms of a traffic light, there was a mention of a traffic light. Is that a cost share for the traffic light that's already in place, or is there a new traffic light?
The town has long anticipated that the intersection of Jordan Road and Cedar Gulch Parkway will reach warrants for a traffic signal upon full build-out. So when that's the case, typically each corner of the intersection, that property owner pays for 1/4 of the signal cost. So that $87,000 you heard, that is 1/4 of the future signal at Jordan Road and Cedar Gulch Parkway. The town, we have some of the money from the east side of the roadway. The church will have to provide their quarter when they come in. The town will construct that signal when warrants are met at that intersection.
Okay. And the only other thing I think I have at this point is that there was some talk about noise pollution, and to me, I think I would put it in reference to the townhomes with Circle K. To me, I think the Circle K building is a barrier to the traffic noise pollution, which I think is a positive. But the negative, that 3-foot barrier wall plus vegetation, we're going to have another use, if you will, on a parcel to the west of that. So that I guess my question would be, it may not be to staff, but do we have any idea of what that use is going to be to the west of Circle K?
There's been no application received at this time, but I do want, if it's okay for me to make one clarifying statement about that, the wall. That was a condition of approval that staff recommended to the Planning Commission on both the western and southern side to mitigate light pollution more so than noise pollution, because that would be about the height that headlights would be. In addition, the site plan has not been approved, so there's no final orientation on the location or orientation of this site.
Okay, so the distance from Circle K to the townhomes, is that, do you have a ballpark on that? I mean, it's just trivia question time for me, isn't it?
From the property line itself of the proposed site to the edge of the right-of-way is approximately 300 feet. If you would measure from the property line to the rear of the homes, it's approximately 353 feet.
Okay, and there's going to be another use in between Circle K and the townhomes?
Correct, in addition to the right-of-way that exists currently.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Barrington, any questions for staff or the applicant?
So, lots of comments, but I'll save those. I would like to ask if we could have staff possibly bring back an alternative for placement, or an alternative for a wall, better shielding, if there's anything that we can do a little bit more research on. I had another question, and somebody said something about 30 days to oppose. I don't know if that's, we've only got one attorney up here, but.
Excuse me, ma'am, the public comment portion has been closed. So the public comment portion of the hearing has been closed, so we would not take any additional testimony or evidence at this point.
Okay.
That is clarification.
Ma'am. Councilmember Barrington, anything else?
I don't think I can put it in the form of a question right now, so I'll let Councilmember Hefta have her turn.
Councilmember Hefta.
What's your concern?
First, my question's going to come at the end. First, I'd like to clarify the record. Incorrect information was put out by the presenter tonight. Colorado has a safe haven law established in the year 2000. This is for newborns to be surrendered at gas stations or hospitals. The program which Circle K has in place is called the Safe Place Program. And you can find that at www.circlekcrimebusters.com. Again, I'd like to clarify that, and now comes my question to our town attorney. Again, if you will. In order for Circle K to put the Crime Busters program in place, as you can very easily find on Google by doing an easy search on Google of Circle K and crime, Circle K must partner with the local police departments in each town. For instance, you will find a partnership between Sault Ste. Marie Police Department and their local Circle K. And there's a partnership between these two in the town. So my question for the town attorney is, are you aware of a partnership between the local Circle Ks in town right now that exist and our local police department?
I wouldn't have access to that information, so I cannot confirm or deny whether that is the case. I would also caution council members from doing their own research. Remember, you sit as judges in a quasi-judicial hearing, and the evidence is supposed to be presented to you as opposed to you generating the evidence. So at this point, I can't comment on your question.
Yes, ma'am, but when some of that evidence is incorrect, as it has been incorrectly presented. I took it upon myself to correct the record on this since it is a public hearing, but I thank you, Madam Attorney, for your information.
Great, thanks. Council, any other questions for the applicant or staff at this point? All right, then we are going to go into the debate mode. So comments, no questions, debate on the issue. And I'm going to start again from my right, Councilman Rivero.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Every time. It's like the most demeaning thing. I'm ready to talk. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Going through, again, I think in Diak's, in Councilman Diak's very long intro question stating what is in front of us today, it is the 9 criteria. And, you know, the 9 criteria are very definitive. We look for very definitive answers. We ask those questions tonight. Staff asked those questions in the years leading up to tonight. And those questions get answered. If they don't get answered, staff doesn't bring it in front of us. And here it is tonight. And then we have an opportunity to clarify those answers. We have an opportunity to re-ask those questions. I was ready to do that tonight. I was hoping that the presenter had her team of experts here because their answers in our documentation were very, very sparse. But I believe that the answers presented to us tonight, as far as the pollution, as far as the light pollution, and my biggest thing, obviously, is the groundwater pollution and leakage. I believe that was answered tonight. I look at items 1 through 6, and I believe those are answered in the master plan and the planning of this. I do want to recognize and thank, I believe it was Mr. Coburn, as you nailed it on the head in your comments as far as what it is we do look at the planning. But at the same time, there is this expectation that we sit up here and pick and choose what businesses are allowed in certain areas. And that's not what we're doing. We're looking at 9 criteria, and we're judging whether the impact of those 9 criteria are already available in the zoning. And is that business going to be continued to be allowed? That's what's in front of us tonight. I can't say there are too many gas stations. I can't say there are too many Circle Ks. Nor would I want to. That's not America. That's not us. That reminds me of a very scary nation way out east. I don't want to sit up here and decide what businesses should profit and what businesses should fail and what businesses are making the wrong decision. If they make the wrong decision, that's on them. And that's the way it should be. That's the market economy. It's my job to make sure that it's safe, that the building that they build is safe, that the traffic that they create is safe, that there is no pollution. That is what we're up here to decide. And answering those 9 criteria, I believe those were answered tonight. And I believe that they answered that they are going to have a safe business. I'm not here to pick and choose winners and losers. I am not here to decide that there are too many gas stations in Parker. I'm not here to decide that there are too many nail salons in Parker, banks in Parker, etc. We're up here to decide what they build is safe for our community. Lastly, I'm going to touch on neighborhood centers because I have been an advocate of this for 10 years. The way that we answer the traffic problems in our community, and there are traffic problems, I will say that a lot of them exist because us on the east side are trying to get to your side because you have a lot more amenities. But what we do, and what we try to do, is give you what you need close to your homes. We give you gas stations and convenience stores. Now, I know those aren't the words you want to hear, but what those bring are barbershops and coffee shops and flower shops and those things you need, dry cleaners, nail salons, on a daily basis. Those are the things that you want in your communities, but they want to be where the traffic's going to be. And again, naughty word, traffic, but that's where they want to go. They don't want to go standalone. They want to go where there is a light, where there is access, where they can get in and out by right turns. That's what we're trying to create, is an ease of access in your communities to get what you need and get to your house quickly. Maybe it's walking your dog. Lastly, buffer zones. Buffer zones are answered in our community by multifamily. And I hate to say this, Auburn Hills, you are the multifamily. You are the buffer zone between the commercial corner that is what we're talking about tonight and the single family homes that are behind you near the school. That's how we buffer communities. That's how it's always been done in Parker and planned development. And I know those aren't the answers you want to say here, and I know that's not what you're here tonight to share. And I wish we could do better education, but tonight in front of us are 9 criteria. And in my opinion, the 9 criteria have been met.
Councilmember Pogue?
Well, I will disagree with Councilmember Rivera. I do not feel that this project as presented, without any additional traffic studies, because we have all these other impacts there in that neighborhood, the air pollution, the noise pollution, I don't know that there have been any studies presented tonight or to me prior to tonight that discuss this issue. So I also find, as a result, there's a problem between harmony and compatibility with the character of the neighboring community. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you. Councilman Dyak?
Whoa. All right. Well, again, gonna go high level. You know, I did a little preamble before, but go higher level. And zoning is a generally accepted privilege for the government to kind of tell people who own land what they can maybe do with their land. We can put contingencies on it, and we can create a setting like this where we can, under the health and safety well-being of the community, ensure that developments or things are consistent and compatible with the surroundings, with the master plan. You know, that is something that, you know, to me, I'm not a person who endeavors to have the government. I don't think anybody here endeavors to have the government tell private landowners what to do and how to do it. But zoning and this process, this criteria process, provides the ability for the town to do so. And it's meant to create logical groupings of what the planning industry thinks are consistent for a successful community. There is a very objective approach. There's a little bit of subjectivity to it. But when we talk about things that are an approved use but require a special use, it's an approved use, and it has been since 1987. With that, it's our duty to ensure that whatever use this comes in has met the criteria or taken steps to mitigate the challenges outlined in the criteria. You know, to me, in the past, I've been doing this for 10 years. In the past, people come up and they don't like the use, and I mean, privately I might agree with them, but publicly, I have a job to do, and the question I'm being asked is it zoned correctly, and has it met the 9 criteria? It's very challenging to put aside your personal thoughts and opinions and sort of conform, if you will, to what is being asked, this role. So. Again, as Councilmember Rivera is indicating, we have 9 criteria before us. You know, that's what we have. It would be great to have a conversation and say we would love something different. We would like something different. We want a mom and pop restaurant right on our corner. I mean, I would love. I want to walk to that. Right, quite honestly. But unfortunately, this process is a process. And the process starts when the landowner requests zoning, which was set in 1987. And then at some point, the landowner will submit an application for a use. If it's a use by right, doesn't come before us. If it's a use by special review, comes before us because we have to ensure that they've taken steps to mitigate. There might be some challenges with, do we need another one? But again, that's not part of the criteria. We need to go through and see if they've taken steps to mitigate because it's their application, it's their project, and we have to focus on that because we are quasi-judicial. We need to take the evidence in. Why are we here? Who's the applicant? Staff, have you reviewed this? does it meet or exceed the 9 criteria? The feedback that we got, that it did. We asked questions, as the mayor indicates, in this process. There are some things that, quite honestly, it sounds like we're very imperfect here. Noticing to people, but we have many modes to try to get the word out. We have signage on the land to hopefully try to call to attention that something is about to happen. And then we listen to public comment to see if there are things within the 9 criteria we can tease out to try to mitigate even further. Or if we do not have those questions or those answers, we need more information. So to me, I will need to go back to the 9 criteria. As I articulated, the last 3 were the ones that were of interest, concern. Number 9, I'll start with that, will not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the present or future inhabitants of the town. Have they taken steps to maintain the health? I mean, I think through the presentation, there are regulations and regulatory bodies who have oversight at higher levels to take care of some of those upper end holistic, health concerns. Safety, I hear you in terms of convenience stores with gas stations may be an attractor of crime. I don't know what type of crime that would be. We've heard skimmers before. I don't know if that's, again, there are still questions there, but again, our staff consulted our internal police department and went through that and say, is this project going to be something in addition that we potentially cannot handle or they have taken steps to mitigate? I believe they have. Well, adequate landscape buffered and screened. So a 3-foot wall for light pollution, which goes to item 7, although it doesn't call out that type of pollution. Screened, plus to me, having at least 300 feet from the nearest house in addition to another use or another something else that goes in between Circle K and the townhomes, I think would create a buffer. I yield to Dr. Losi and his wisdom. Go Nittany Lions. But to me, they've taken steps to create foliage and buffers and deal with the noise pollution. It sounds like via a suggestion of staff to the Planning Commission. Number 7, will not cause significant air, water, or noise pollution. Again, it goes back to the standards at higher levels of government. For us, I was encouraged. I think the big thing historically when I've sat up here is light pollution. In the presentation, the light pollution is contained, if you will, within the boundary of the property. So I was happy to hear that. Noise, a little bit of an outstanding issue on 1 day a week in terms of a delivery. I don't know what time that is, but again, that's the only outstanding question I think I have at this point based on what I focused on. So with that, Mayor, I will conclude my comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Barrington.
So for me, it was it was concerning that no one received notice, but again, I understand that that was a courtesy. And, I have a lot of thoughts on this, just being in real estate. Going back to what John said, or Council Member Dyak said, I might not agree with everything, but it's also private property. And being in real estate, I'm an advocate of private property ownership. It is still an approved use, I have to take my personal opinions out of this. And just going through all the criteria, I feel like I still have some questions, but for the most, I feel like that all the 9 criteria have been addressed, and whether I like that or not, it's really not my choice. These are the criteria that have been put in front of us, and I feel like they have been addressed. That's all the comments I have.
Councilmember Hefta.
Well, I've been sitting up here for 2 years, and I applaud applicants when they do a good job of providing good applicant analysis and findings. However, in this particular circumstance, on numbers 6, 7, 8, and 9, I'd like to comment that I don't have actual analysis or findings. I have a statement of fact by the applicant in maybe 1 sentence or 2 sentences in this information I have before me. And I have statements about everything's going to be satisfied, there's not going to be any significant air, water, or noise pollution anticipated. I have absolutely no analysis in this application from the applicant. And I, as a council member sitting in the town of Parker with a law degree, have reviewed these applications before, and I've complimented applicants, and I compliment a lot of people. I like to compliment, and I like to find the positive things in applications. And in my review of this, this has not been satisfied, and the applicant analysis and findings are very thin, and they do not satisfy the 9 criteria.
Yeah. Anybody else have closing comments?
I'll just add to the fact of Councilmember Hefta's comments. I, too, have stated already tonight that I've not seen studies supporting the applicant's position. And I think those are critical to meet the 9 criteria. So thank you.
Councilman Dagg?
Yeah, so, I mean, with the theme of not enough information or not enough information within this packet, can we assemble that information and maybe continue this? I don't know how long that would take to get to the council members. So we could give that to, because again, I think, to me, what I'm feeling is that we went through a traffic, for instance, we went through a process previously where we had traffic studies based upon the potential uses that, hearing from Councilmember Hefta and Councilmember Pogue, they do not have access to. So I would like to take it upon myself to ask on behalf of them if we could gather the information for them, because to me, it feels like we've addressed this maybe in a previous agenda item. I just want to make sure that all the information is available before we render an ultimate decision. So I guess to me, again, if it's agreeable to council, how long would something like that take to gather up, to consult with Councilmember Hefta, Councilmember Pogue, to get the information to them, and then for us to maybe talk about it at a study session, and then to continue this forward?
Excuse me, I guess I would caution the council from looking to receive additional evidence at this point. You've closed the public comment, you've asked your questions of staff and the applicant, and I guess we'd need some direction on what information you would be looking for, and I wouldn't want to continue a public hearing into a study session additionally.
Okay,
but
fair enough.
At this point, I would think that direction you'd be giving to staff would be more along the lines of bring back alternative conditions that we could put on the use by special review to address the concerns about noise or concerns about light or concerns about traffic, and direct staff to come back with alternative conditions for council to consider for approval, that maybe the discussion should go in that direction?
Yeah, so I mean, to me, I'm just trying to bridge that gap. I mean, to me, I do recall the traffic studies in our previous agenda item before, but again, it may not have been put in here. So there may be a gap, is sort of what I was trying to bridge. I wouldn't know where to go with additional conditions, because it almost feels like the evidence that we had in a previous item that, to me, builds to this has not been provided. And, you know, it sounds like that has become needed, if you will. So I'm trying to figure out a way to bridge that gap. Kristen.
So what specifically, what information is?
Well, I would yield to Councilmember Pogue and Councilmember Hefta as to what the needs are. To me, I think the one thing I teased out was traffic. The traffic study that we had previous access to in a previous item, if you will, that wasn't identified here. That's the only thing I could. But I will yield to Councilmember Pogue and Councilmember Hefta.
Okay, before we continue this, Kristen, it sounds like we either need a motion to continue this item or a motion on the special review, correct?
No, I mean, I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out, is what motion we're looking for me to suggest what the motion should be. I'm trying to get some direction about what information council is looking for. I would caution taking in additional evidence at this point, and instead focus the motion on addressing concerns through additional or revised conditions.
Okay, so do you want to hear from Councilmember Pogue and Councilmember Hefta on what they're looking for specifically, or do you want to?
Yes, because that may lead us to be able to draft a motion to have us come back with conditions that could address those concerns.
Councilmember Pogue, do you want to start?
Sure, I have a list. Obviously, traffic, especially the internal traffic, is the problem, not what you see on Jordan Road or on Main Street. I'm concerned about the internal traffic that's going to develop because of this. The other thing is, I don't think a traffic light is the solution to the neighborhood traffic problems. I'm concerned about the air pollution. I'm not so concerned about the water pollution, because those are enclosed pipes and it's being piped in. But I am concerned about the noise pollution of having trucks and traffic in there 24 hours a day. So to me, those are my primary.
Councilmember Hefta, what's on your list?
Again, our number 6, 7, 8, and 9, the applicant made statements of fact, provided no analysis, and then provided one statement and made a finding off of that. Our staff actually provided some analysis and some findings, although it was on the lighter side, but they did do their job. As I always compliment staff when they do their job, and they did do their job. I don't find that the applicant actually did their job on this application. I find our staff was trying to provide the analysis for them because they made statements of fact. I think, for instance, any air, water, noise pollution that may exist will not exceed any applicable air, water, noise pollution standards and will meet state and local restrictions, if any. Once the store is built, no significant air, water, noise pollution as anticipated. Well, what study did you do? What information do you have to support that statement? It's not in here. Actually, our staff then goes on, our staff analysis talks about the state and federal regulations and that they're required to meet these standards for ground and water and soil. What about the applicant putting that in there? Is our staff doing the job for the applicant? That's my question.
I've got one more.
Okay, true.
I want to add number 9, because, it's well known that crime and 24-hour gas stations or convenience stores kind of go together. What studies do we have to show that this will not impact the neighborhoods? I don't have anything in front of me to discuss that.
So I think what I'm hearing from Councilmember Hefta and Councilmember Pogue is that there simply was just not enough evidence entered into the record to support their findings. And I'm not sure I'm hearing that a condition could address those concerns, at least specifically with respect to Councilmember Hefta. And so I don't know if Councilmember Pogue would like us to look at a motion to bring back alternative conditions to address traffic, air pollution, and noise pollution.
And health and safety of the neighborhood. Because it's not addressing the crime. We know there's crime associated with these uses. There's nothing in here to discuss the impact to the neighbors from that aspect.
So, Kristen, are you recommending, Cheryl, to make a motion that we bring it back and look at a condition for traffic, air pollution, noise pollution, and health and safety?
I think that motion could be made, or we could go ahead and make the motion for approval with the staff conditions and vote, or a motion to deny. I think those are your 3 options.
I'll make a motion to deny the application.
Okay. There's been a motion made to deny the application.
I'll second.
By Laura?
Yep.
Okay. Motion is made by Councilmember Pogue to deny, seconded by Councilmember Hefta. Rivero?
Nay.
Pogue?
Aye.
Dyak?
Nope.
Barrington?
No.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that dies on a 2-3 vote.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve based upon staff findings, including the conditions contained in the staff report.
Let the record reflect those are the 1 through 5 conditions that are contained in the council action form of the published
Already, I
agenda
think
packet.
that I'll amend my motion, Town Attorney. I move to approve based upon staff findings, including the following conditions contained in the staff report. A site plan approval shall be required prior to the issuance of building permits. A building permit shall be required for any interior or exterior work completed on site. This approval shall expire 12 months after the date of the approval unless the building permit has been applied for and a site plan has been approved. The Community Development Director, upon request, may grant a 90-day extension. Number 4, gas tank vent pipes shall not be freestanding and shall vent through the canopy structure. Number 5, the applicant shall provide a decorative 2.5 foot to 3 foot knee wall designed to match the architecture of the principal building along the west and south ends of the parking lot and canopy area. In addition to meeting the minimum landscaping standards set within the Town of Parker Land Development Ordinance, the applicant shall be required to plant a minimum of 1 tree and 5 shrubs or shrub and ornamental grass substitutions as allowed in 13.06.07015 of the Town of Parker Land Development Ordinance per 25 square feet of linear edge along the west and south property lines. At maturity, the landscaping shall be dense enough to fully screen the parking and driving areas on site. Required decorative knee wall and enhanced landscaping shall be reviewed and approved through the site plan process.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion is made by Councilman Rivero, seconded by Councilmember Dyak to approve the use by special review. Rivero?
Aye.
Pogue?
Nay.
Dyak?
Yeah.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hefta?
Nay.
And that motion passes 3-2
Yeah.
with Pogue and Hefta in the negative.
So,
And we are going to make sure that every one of you that voted for this will never be re-elected.
Great,
Get it?
thank you. Moving on to item number 5B, resolution number 22-307, resolution to adopt the 2022 update for the open space, trails, and greenway master plan as a part of the Town of Parker master plan. Jeremiah, you have some, you don't look like Jeremiah at all. Director Fusa.
No, thank you, Mayor. I'm here to request a continuance of this item, resolution number 22-037, to next Monday, July 18th, in order for us to correct the map attached to the resolution.
Great. Thank you, Director. Council, is there a motion to postpone this to July 18th?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made by Councilman Rivero, seconded by Councilmember Pogue. Rivero?
Aye.
Pogue?
Aye.
Dyak?
Yes.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hefta?
Yep.
And that passes 5-0. Next up is continuing our public hearing, Challenger Park Estates PD Amendment 1 for the Solomon Foundation. So I will go ahead and open the public hearing on this at 9:23 p.m. Julie, it's all yours. Do you have an applicant today?
We
You
do.
Okay.
They don't have a presentation, but they'll be available to introduce themselves and answer any questions
Okay,
you may
go
have.
ahead with yours, and then we'll get to you for questions. Oh, we'll call you up when it's your turn. Yep.
Good evening again. Before you is the Challenger Park Estates Plan Development Second Amendment. The site is located on the northeast corner of Jordan Road and Pine Lane. The project applicant is proposing to amend the Challenger Park Estates Development Guide in the neighborhood commercial planning area to require additional requirements for height in excess of 35 feet. The PD, the plan development, currently designates two distinct planning areas as commercial. There's the neighborhood commercial area and the mixed-use employment professional office. The Solomon Foundation campus and Secor Cares occupy the entirety of the neighborhood commercial planning areas. The Southeast Christian Church occupies the entire mixed-use employment professional office planning area. The original planned development approval in 1996 allowed for a maximum height of 35 feet. The planned development currently has the same use restrictions and development standards for both the neighborhood commercial area and the mixed-use employment professional office planning areas. This amendment proposes to separate the use restrictions and development standards for those two planning areas. In 2003, Town Council proposed and adopted an amendment to the Challenger Park Estates plan development. That amendment allowed for a height of 45 feet in the commercial planning areas of the plan development. However, at that time, that ordinance had a legal description. The legal description had an error that was missing a partial description of the property. The Second Amendment, what's before you tonight, adds additional development regulations for height in excess of 35 feet. That would include setbacks and stepbacks. It also separates the use restrictions between the commercial area and the mixed-use employment office professional area, and it corrects the legal description from the 2003 ordinance. This is a description of the mixed-use employment professional office planning areas and the neighborhood commercial planning area. The land for the mixed-use employment professional office area, the land uses are modified to reflect the existing as-built environment. It also updates the terminology for consistency with the updates to the land development ordinance, and the development standards are consistent with our C commercial district zoning. The neighborhood commercial planning area, the land uses have also been modified to reflect the existing development and compatible neighborhood serving uses. It updates the terminology as well, and the maximum height allowed, which is 45 feet, consistent with the 2003 ordinance, so there's no proposal for increased height here. What they're doing is they're proposing additional development standards that would have setbacks and stepbacks for height in excess of 35 feet. The highlighted area shows the neighborhood commercial planning area in the plan development. Stepbacks and setbacks are common architectural techniques to reduce massing and break down height. The minimum setback required along Pine Lane is 25 feet from the right-of-way. The project is proposed in the site plan approval that's running concurrently with this application, provides a setback that ranges from a minimum of 26.3 feet to 27.5 feet and is compliant with the current zoning height allowed at that setback of 35 feet. They are proposing to step the building back an additional 10 feet. I think a good way to think of this is steps on a stairs before the additional 10 feet in height. The step back reduces massing and mitigates the additional height increase. The diagram is included in the new plan and development and shows how additional height is stepped back from the road as well as how it's calculated. The requested zoning amendment is in association with a site plan amendment for Phase 3 of the Solomon Foundation development. The site plan amendment will require an administrative approval and is not part of the hearing tonight. However, staff is providing some additional site plan information for context. The property currently contains 2 buildings totaling approximately 60,000 square feet, landscaping, and a parking lot. The proposed construction will add a new 28,686 square foot office building with parking improvements and landscaping. The entire site, existing and proposed buildings, will still be required to meet all parking and landscaping requirements. The proposed request would be consistent in height with the proposed zoning, which transitions using setbacks and stepbacks to the adjacent arterial road of Pine Lane. There's 192 feet of existing surface parking to the rear of the newly proposed building before the property line of the multifamily residence to the north. The single-family homes to the south are also separated by the residential roadway buffer, the 80-foot right-of-way of Pine Lane, and the additional required yard setbacks of 25 feet. There would be no shadow impacts to the north or south of the proposed building. The subject property is located within the mixed-use residential emphasis area as designated by the 2035 master plan. This area is intended to provide commercial and higher intensity uses without significantly impacting the transportation system or character of the community. The Challenger Park plan development emphasizes a mix of uses, including neighborhood commercial. The proposed amendment to the PD is consistent with the master plan. There are 9 criteria used to evaluate rezoning, and these criteria ensure that a need exists, the proposal is consistent with the master plan, and there are adequate services to serve the proposed site. After evaluating the zoning information, staff has determined that the proposal meets the 9 approval criteria set forth in the LDO. Staff has reviewed the proposal and has determined that the project is consistent with the master plan, and utility providers have also confirmed capacity and availability, and all notice requirements have been satisfied. Therefore, staff and the Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the Challenger Park Estates Plan Development Second Amendment. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant is here to introduce themselves and additionally answer any questions.
Excellent. Let's go start with staff questions. To my left, Councilmember Hefta.
None at this time.
Okay, Councilmember Barrington.
Can you just pull up the map again of where this is? So I know where the Secor is. Okay, so it's going to be to the north of the...
It'll be to the right, as you're looking at it, to the right of that drive aisle that accesses the parking lot, and that there's a little landscaped area to the right of the driveway that goes into the parking lot.
Right against the road, right against Pine Lane, there's a little grassy knoll.
So to the east of that driveway entry is where that proposed building would be along Pine Lane. So in between the 2 existing buildings, about midway.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. No other
Councilman
questions.
Dyke.
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Pogue.
Yes. Are there any other structures in that area that have been allowed at 45 feet?
I don't know in the immediate vicinity, but the code was amended by the council in 2003 to allow a height of 45 feet. So what's being requested this evening is not an increase in height. It's to require additional mitigating development design standards for setbacks. As far as to the immediate vicinity, I'm not sure. There are 2-story homes that are probably in excess of 30 feet in the immediate vicinity.
So what's the height of the current buildings on that site?
I believe those are at 35 feet.
Thank you.
Councilman Rivera.
Thank you. I had to read this one a few times. It's not often that I believe, and if I read it correctly, we get applicants asking to put more restrictions on a project, and that's what we're here to do. They're coming in and asking us to put more design setbacks or requirements on the project. Is that correct?
That is correct, and to also clean up that erroneous legal description from the original adoption of the height increase.
So I was just looking for the clarification. Thank you.
Excellent. Julie, do you want to introduce the applicants?
Yes, we have representatives, I believe, from the Solomon Foundation here this evening, if they haven't left. Oh, there they are.
Good evening, guys. Thank you for staying late here tonight. Would you like to introduce yourself, name and address for the record?
Sure. My name is Doug Crozier. I'm the current CEO and founding CEO of the Solomon Foundation, 16965 Pine Lane, Suite 200, Colorado.
Excellent, excellent.
initial construction at 3601 North Stagecoach Road in Longmont, Colorado at 80504.
Excellent. Do y'all have any comments, or do you just looking for questions from the council?
I'd just like to make a quick comment.
Absolutely.
First of all, the Solomon Foundation, when my wife and I started the Solomon
Can you turn your mic on at the bottom? All the way at the bottom, there should be a little green.
Great, is that better?
Better, yeah.
Great, thank you. Yeah, a little over 11 years ago, my wife and I started the Solomon Foundation. We at the time lived in Orange County, California. I formed a board of directors from people all across the United States, and the boards looked me in the eye and said, you can start the Solomon Foundation anywhere in the United States. We narrowed it down to 5 cities. We selected Denver, then we selected Parker. The reason we selected Parker is because I financed and helped develop all the phases of Southeast Christian Church, knew a lot of people there, and for the first time in our lives, we wanted to make the decision where we live based on where we wanted to go to church. We had a strong relationship with Southeast Christian Church. They had that excess land. They donated that land to us, and then we turned it in to a center for not-for-profits. Many people look at it as a C-Corps center, and we're very glad for that facility and that not-for-profit. But the Solomon Foundation is an international ministry. We're the 4th largest church extension fund in America. We're headquartered in the city or the town of Parker, and we're very pleased to be here. And we just think that this site has been a blessing to us and allowed us to expand. And we're growing very rapidly. We're now the 4th largest fund in the country. We need to add employees. We need to add space. And no better place to add it than adding the 3rd building and final building of this site. So I just want to share with you how much the town of Parker and this project has meant to me both personally and professionally.
Excellent. Thank you for those comments. We'll start with questions of the applicant. We'll start again, same order. Councilmember Hefta?
Yes, on the, can you just go over, it's Doug, right?
Yes.
Number 1, a need exists for the proposal. Can you just talk about, just in plain terms, why you need this rezoning request in its current state, in your own words?
Yes, we just need additional space, again, to expand our staff and to expand other ministries. We actually have a waiting list of not-for-profit organizations that want to come into the Solomon Foundation. It's not only C-Corps and the Solomon Foundation, it's Southeast Christian Church, it's CASA, it's Covered, it's Mountain Child. These are all ministries that serve both the local, and national and international community. And the big thing is we just need more space, so we're going to move from our offices in the main building and occupy the 3rd building that's proposed.
And will this, I see that you held a meeting with the neighborhood residents.
Yes.
And could you just elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, we actually, before we even planned the project, before we even applied to this town of Parker, we held 2 meetings with our neighbors. We had, I think, 5 people at one and another 7 or 8 at the other. Their complaints were with lighting on the C-Corps building and snow removal on the site. So we mitigated both of those. We redid the lights on the C-Corps building, and we contracted with our snow removal company not to come before 8 a.m. So we solved all the neighbor problems that they had at that time, and we've heard no more issues or complaints from any of our neighbors.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilmember Barrington?
Thank you for everything that you do. I just had a question about, you said that you did have 2 meetings with the neighbors. How did you notice them?
We, I believe we contacted the town of Parker and we got a mailing list for a radius that I think was 2 or 3 block radius for all the single family. We did not notice the multifamily because they're not owners. And we sent a note to all, I think we sent 2 or 3 notices by mail.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Dyak?
No questions, thank you so much.
Councilmember Pogue?
Yeah, I do have a question. I'm looking at your setback situation here, and for this structure that you're looking at, you want to go, if I can read this, which is very rough right now, 25 feet back from the property line or from the front. I don't know how that equates to property line because you're all within the same property, right?
Correct.
So what's the distance between the buildings?
The distance between Phase 1, which that's the one that is on Jordan Road, over to the new facility would probably be approximately 100 feet.
Okay. Now, you're proposing the 35 feet on one part, and then you're going to step back 10 feet and go to what, 45 feet?
Correct.
Why? What? Because, you know, you're going to be taller than other structures in that area, so
Right.
why?
When we designed the building, we wanted to make sure that the neighborhood to the south, which is all the single-family residents, that there be a wedding cake type setback of three, it's actually 3 levels of setbacks, that would allow it to have a better view for them, that there'd be a setback on that.
You think that's enough?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Rivera?
No question.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. All right. With that, we are going to go ahead and open up this for public comment at 9:40 p.m. Anyone in the room? Nope. And no one online? Okay, and so we're going to close that at 9:40, and we're going to bring it back to council for any further questions of the applicant or staff. Anyone?
No further questions.
Sure.
Yeah, could you explain again the change in Parker zoning on 35 to 45 in this location?
So there's no request for increased height. The height exists today. It was adopted in 2003 by the town council. So the maximum height of 45 feet exists. What the request is to implement additional development design standards for height in excess of 35 feet to be stepped back and set back an additional amount from the right-of-way, which is a common architectural mechanism to mitigate massing and height impacts. They could build a 45-foot building by right today. They're asking to modify the PD to have additional setbacks and also to clean up that legal description that was erroneously entered into the record in 2003.
Do you think this will have an impact in surrounding areas?
The height is an existing reality.
Probably not. All right, thank you.
Councilman Dyak, any?
No questions.
Councilmember Barrington? Nothing. And Councilmember Hefta?
I'd just like to compliment our staff on a job well done, and thank you for answering all the questions.
All right, closing the public hearing at 9:41. We're bringing it back for debate. I'm going to start with Councilmember Pogue to my right.
I have no further.
Okay, Councilmember Rivera?
Hold on.
Your chair doesn't like you.
I don't like my chair. Thank you. I wish folks would have stuck around. This is an example of a business, if you will, that cares about the community, and absolutely amazing. I don't know that I've ever seen applicants put restrictions on themselves to beautify their community, and I commend you on the ask. I think it shows investment. I've been in your building quite a bit. When Secor was in Phase 1, and then obviously they moved over. I had the honor of touring this last spring, CASA, and met with the ownership, or the leadership there, knowing about the organization, and just an incredible organization, and what they do in our community is absolutely amazing. I had no idea. This is Mountain Child of Nepal, Mountain Child. I mean, I followed them on Instagram, fabulous organization. I had no idea they had an office in Parker, Colorado. I mean, just absolutely amazing. I commend you. This answers the nine criteria of consideration in front of us, and it definitely shows a need exists for the proposal.
Councilman Dyak?
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Barrington?
No questions, just, can I comment?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
Just no
I should
questions.
have said no comment, but thank you very much. Sorry.
Again, thank you for everything you do for our community. I just had a tour for the first time of Secor last Thursday and had no idea it was 30,000 square feet. And just the organization that you run, and it was really impressive, and what you are doing for the SAC lunch program. I know that's not food for thought. So I'm just thrilled to have this in our community, and again, thank you for everything you do.
And Councilmember Hefta.
Yes, in reading through this applicant's analysis and findings, the applicant has met the 9 criteria and has also provided sufficient applicant and analysis and findings to each of the questions in as much detail. And I find the integrity and veracity of the applicant to be outstanding from what I'm reading here. And I thank the applicant for their contributions to the community. Thank you.
So with that, we'll entertain a motion on ordinance number 3.216.1 on second reading.
I'll move to approve ordinance number 3.216 on second reading. 2.6.1. Not 2.16.1.
There you go.
Second.
Kind of a long one.
Motion is made by Councilmember Pogue, seconded by Councilmember Dyak. Rivero.
Aye.
Pogue.
Aye.
Dyak.
Yes.
Barrington.
Yes.
Hefta.
Yes.
And that passes 5-0. Thank you guys very much. All right, moving on to ordinances. Mary, we didn't forget about you. We might have forget about Randy Sale. I don't know at this point, but you're still in the back room. All right. All right, our first ordinance up is a two-parter here on Recreation and Open Space Advisory Commission. And council, you'll have an ordinance and a resolution to approve on this one.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So we had a previous discussion with Council on the implementation of the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Commission back in the first quarter of this year. At that time, we discussed the bylaws, and we went back and took that feedback from Council and made some revisions and updated the bylaws. Those were included in your packet for review. If approved tonight, we would like to proceed with the implementation of the Parks and Recreation Open Space Commission, Advisory Commission. And the timeline for this includes an application process and interviews projected for around fall. And at that time, we would identify council members interested in serving in that process and assisting us with application review or interviews, what that looks like, and we'll further clarify that as well. Staff liaisons for this commission would be myself and Brett Collins and Brenda Mooney, who's our project analyst. So the three of us would serve as the staff liaisons. Areas of focus that we've primarily identified at this time would be an orientation presentation similar to the orientation presentations that we offer new town council members, a tour of our facilities and our parks and trails, capital project and budget overview, Parks and Recreation Master Plan review, and Open Space Trails and Greenways Master Plan review, and also potential involvement with the open space acquisition as we discussed previously. So staff is recommending approval of both the ordinance to create the commission as well as the resolution to approve the bylaws.
Great. Thank you, ma'am. We'll go to
Yes, and I'd like-
staff questions.
Questions.
All right. Councilmember Pogue, questions?
I don't have any questions. I'm just really glad it's come to this point. But I do have a question for you.
Oh, okay.
It's asking us to approve an ordinance and a resolution under the same recommended. Is that what you're trying to do tonight?
It is, yep.
With one motion?
Yep, no,
Okay.
two motions.
Two motions. Two
Will be two,
motions,
yep,
okay.
yep. Councilman Rivero?
No questions.
Okay, Councilman Dyak?
No questions.
Councilmember Barrington?
No questions.
Councilmember Hefta?
No questions.
All right, with that, we'll open it up for public comment at 9:48. Even Randy Sale left for this one. Oh, there he is. He just keeps moving around the room. Chris, do we have anybody online? Okay, we'll close the public comment at 9:48 and bring it back to council. Anyone have any further questions for Mary? Okay, we'll go to comments. Councilman Rivero.
No comments. I mean, this has been a long-time dream. I appreciate Michelle's leadership. I appreciate staff pushing this through. It's going to be outstanding. I'm just very, very excited to bring more citizen oversight into Parks and Rec and find out what an amazing job you guys do with, most importantly, the budget you have and the constraints that you do have. So I'm very, very excited for more citizen involvement.
Councilmember Pogue.
I'm not interested in this because of oversight. I'm interested in this because I think inviting the community to participate in these decisions and go forward involves more and more people than just a small cluster of folks. So I really am looking forward to this. Thank you.
Councilman Dyak?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think to me, the more minds, the more people, the better the process. I think our community has been passionate about Parks and Rec and open space since I've been here. I just, there are some big asks throughout the years of can we do this, can we do that. We live in a world of constrained funding, and look forward to getting these citizens on board so we can have the greater conversations to figure out what direction we go in with our funds. Thank you.
Councilmember Barrington.
I think this is wonderful. I think it fosters community creativity and engagement, which is one of our strategic goals. And again, as Councilmember Pogue said, I love the idea of just opening up more channels or avenues for citizens to get involved. So thank you for all of your hard work.
And Councilmember Hefta.
Thank you, Mary. I know under your outstanding leadership that the citizens on this commission will feel respected and have their voices heard, and that your staff and you will do the adequate analysis to help Parker going forward on our open space and recreation. Thank you.
With that, I'll entertain a motion on ordinance number 12.10 on second reading.
I move to approve ordinance number 12.10 on second reading.
I'll second.
Motion was made by Councilmember Pogue, seconded by Councilmember Barrington. Rivero?
Aye.
Pogue?
Aye.
Dyak?
Yes.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 5-0. Next up is resolution number 22-025.
I move to approve resolution number 22-025.
I'll second that.
Motion was made by Councilmember Barrington, seconded by Councilmember Pogue. Rivero?
Aye.
Pogue?
Aye.
Dyak?
Yes.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that passes 5-0. All right, we got an
you.
advisory committee. This is good. All right, our last ordinance of the night is ordinance number 1.562 on second reading, a bill for an ordinance to approve the memorandum of understanding for pre-qualified building departments for public school construction pursuant to Sierra Section 2232-124 and 2371-122 between the Colorado Department of Public Safety, Division of Fire Prevention and Control, and the town of Parker. You couldn't have had a longer title tonight?
Well,
At 10
it's
o'clock?
not the 10 codes, at least.
Randy, thanks for your patience tonight.
Oh, you're welcome very much. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight seeking approval for ordinance 1.562. The town has historically been a party to a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, with the state of Colorado to provide construction plan review and permitting and field inspection services for public schools. By approval tonight, the building division is hoping to renew the MOU, which will enable the building division to formalize the continuation and services that apply to new buildings, remodels, modular buildings, they're temporary classrooms. What else? Annual inspections, exterior modifications of any public school. The state will continue to perform their plumbing and electrical requirements as deemed by their statutes, which we would not be a part of. So with that, my presentation has concluded.
Thank you, sir. Questions for Randy? Councilman Dyak?
I got a lot of questions for Randy, but none
On this
forum.
topic?
No, on this topic.
Councilmember Barrington?
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Hefta?
Thank you.
None, thank you.
Councilmember Pogue?
Not a question, but a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I was working with the Colorado Public Safety to get this passed and taken away from the Colorado Department of Health and Environment, because they, at one point, were the only ones allowed to do inspections. And as a result, we had a number of school building collapses.
Right.
And so with that, I'm so glad that you're moving forward with it.
Thank you.
Excellent. Councilman Rivera?
No question.
All right, we'll open up for public comment at 9:53. Unless John Fuso wants to talk about you, Randy. Chris, do we have anybody on Zoom? Okay, we'll close it at 9:54 and bring it back to the council for any debate. Councilman Rivera?
Nope.
Councilman Pogue?
No.
Councilman Dyack?
Nope.
Councilmember Barrington? Councilmember Hefta?
Thank you for proposing this MOU for the town to enter into.
All right, with that, I will entertain a motion on ordinance number 1.562 on second reading.
I move to approve ordinance number 1.562 on second reading.
Second.
Motion is made by Councilman Rivera, seconded by motion was made by Councilmember Pogue, seconded by Councilmember Rivera. Rivera?
Aye.
Pogue?
Aye.
Dyack?
Yes.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hefta?
Yes.
And that motion passes 5-0. All right, so right now we will need a motion to reconvene in executive session because there's still work to do.
And if I can clarify for.
And if you can cite the statute, yep.
Yes, so.
Question before we go there, do we have to extend past our 10
Nope,
o'clock?
that was repealed.
Oh, that was
Yeah,
repealed.
so, yeah, I did some research, and that was adopted pursuant to Resolution 829 in 2008. And when you adopted the new revised policy manual, you specifically repealed that resolution. So
we did that?
you repealed the 2008 resolution in 2018.
So we can go all night. We can go all
So,
night.
yeah, so the party continues.
All right.
So the motion is to reconvene an executive session to hold a conference with the town's attorney to receive legal advice on specific legal questions pursuant to CRS 246424B. In particular, the items that we will be discussing is Section 13.01.100 of the Parker Municipal Code concerning a waiver extension of approval for Parker Homestead Filing Number 1, Amendment Number 2, Lot 1 for a gas station, as well as Section 13.01.100 of the Parker Municipal Code concerning a waiver extension of approval for the Lincoln Professional Park for a gas station.
All right, is there a motion to reconvene in executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Dyack. Motion is made by Councilman Rivera, seconded by Councilmember Dyack. Rivera?
Aye.
Pogue?
Aye.
Dyack?
Yes.
Barrington?
Yes.
Hefta?
Yes.
And we will reconvene in 5 minutes in executive session.